Welcome to the Studio Chat podcast, your safe haven for self-discovery, growth, and transformation. I'm Barbara Thompson, your host. I'm a therapist and the founder of Self-Care Studio. Whether you're joining me from my private counselling sessions, my courses, or right here on this podcast, I'm dedicated to helping you reconnect with yourself and live life authentically. This podcast is your reminder to pause, reflect, and reclaim your power. Together we'll explore the messy, beautiful journey of life, from letting go of people-pleasing and overthinking to embracing your worth and stepping boldly into your true self. Here, you're not just a listener, you're part of a community that values self-trust, self-love, and living life on your terms. So whether you're navigating challenges, seeking clarity, or simply craving a dose of inspiration, you've come to the right place. Thank you so much for choosing to spend this time with me. Let's dive into today's episode and continue this journey together. Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Studio Chat podcast. So I got asked the other day how long my podcast has been going on for, and it'll be almost 3 years in a couple of weeks. And it's so interesting because ideally I just started the podcast because I couldn't sleep one night. I was like, Barbara's random ideas. I might start a podcast. And before the sun came up, I had the podcast, the branding, my first episode recorded, but I had no idea where this podcast was going to take me. I thought it would just be me recording episodes, and I naturally have found myself in a space where I handpick my guests on things that I really think may help you in your journey in life. Like this chat that I'm going to have today with my guest may be something you need now, or it could be something you need later. And the cool thing about podcast episodes is they just sit there and you will come across them when you're ready. And this guest I've got is incredible for many more reasons than one, which I'm going to share with you in a minute. But when you talk about natural herbs and medicine and food as medicine, I think this is with how the world is at the moment. I think we're so overstimulated. We overcomplicate everything. Why don't we go back in the old days? Like when there wasn't so much like natural, like how do I describe it? Connecting with nature. There's so many cultures around the world that use herbs and spices and all sorts of natural medicines, but they've always been poo-pooed when mainstream medicine has come in, and something that I've got a passion in naturally. And so when I came across, get this guys, her name is incredible for two reasons. First of all, we're going to talk to the wild herb lady. Isn't that such a cool name? And so the lady that started all of this is the beautiful Kylie Poole. And sometimes the universe brings us people who we need in the exact moment. And Kylie and I invited her on I was like, I need to have you on my podcast because I haven't had a homeopath on my podcast. So today we're going to be talking about, all the stuff to do with being a homeopath, which is such a broad topic and subject. But yeah, I'm really excited to give you all the tips that you need, what it is, how it works. And I noticed Kylie had a bit of an accent. Like I thought, she sounds pretty cool. And obviously she is, because like she's from New Zealand. So, and then as we got talking, we found out that we had so many things in common, as in we were kind of brought up in around the same area back at home in Auckland, and we knew the same people. And I was like, holy shit. So Kylie Poole, welcome to my podcast. And when I say it's so nice to have you here, I really mean it.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. And yes, the synchronicities that happened after you reached out to me were just honestly mind-blowing.
Yeah.
I don't think either of us would have thought that, we would basically have grown up in the same place in New Zealand, and not only that, but lived, in Wollongong area south of Sydney. Just the synchronicities have been amazing.
Yeah, it is really amazing. So I want to kick this episode off by, how did you choose this path of being a homeopath? Like what has, brought you to this space in your life where how have you become the wild herb lady? That's probably a really good question to start with.
It's an amazing question. And honestly, I think I'm one of the lucky ones that I grew up with a grandmother who was so into natural medicine. So I grew up surrounded by homeopathics. When I had a sore throat or there was an issue, we would go into my grandma's cupboard underneath her in her kitchen, and she had an array of homeopathics in there. And she was into color therapy and kinesiology and touch for health. And she was a woman that was far beyond her time. I'm 41, and so, like, this is going back when I like 30 years ago. So it was not as popular as what it is now. And I had a lot of troubles in New Zealand. I had severe eczema from the time I was 3 years old, so it covered my whole body. I was bullied extensively in New Zealand. I didn't have friends. And then at 14, we moved to Sydney. And it was kind of like I could restart my life without the judgment and stuff that it had carried and followed me through my life in New Zealand. And when I came to Sydney, I still had my eczema, but it wasn't as prevalent as what it was when I was a child. And yeah, I kind of went on the school journey here and basically moved from the suburbs in Sydney to Bondi. And I needed a job, and I found a job in a health food shop. And again, I was exposed to kind of like the other side of natural medicine. So like Reiki and naturopathy and herbal medicine and massage and all the other modalities. And that kind of really sparked my desire to study this. But I didn't know exactly like which avenue I wanted to take. And then the boss that I had there was actually quite a bully as well. And, I ended up getting depression and really struggling. And I actually reached out to a homeopath who was one of the teachers that I was looking to at the college that I was looking to study at. And basically, I was suicidal, and within 3 months, I came back to not being that way, to not struggling with those feelings, to not wanting to harm myself. And it was literally down to the homeopathics that I was given. And so I was like, that's it, I'm choosing homeopathy. So I enrolled and, yeah, spent the next 5 years studying that and nutrition. And it was amazing. Like, it has just changed my life. And, like, I honestly don't know how people do life without having homeopathy in it, because it makes that much of a difference to my life and those around me that, yeah, I I just sit there and I'm like, how do people deal with life if they've got these issues and they don't have the support of homeopathy?
Yeah, I think a lot of people aren't even aware, don't have the awareness to really sit with those issues. So sometimes
Yes.
people, yeah, so that's the thing. Wow, that's
Huge.
huge. I don't live with it. So I'm thinking, oh, okay, our chat today. I think I've only just opened my eyes to it too, really, studying
Yeah.
nutrition. I haven't really come across it until I found you. I
Yeah.
saw something else and something sparked, and I thought, oh, I need to speak to a homeopath. And then was looking them up and found you. So first of all, I want to say I I know of people that have had eczema, and it can be one of the most debilitating. How it looks, how it feels. You can't sleep. You're itchy.
Yeah.
I want to say I'm really sorry to that little Kylie, and also sorry to like people that were being assholes and bullying you, and that makes me really sad that it was done at home. And also, when you feel anxious and depressed, I mean, first of all, thank you for sharing that with us, but also how this modality has really helped you, which in turn is now you help other people.
100%. And honestly, thank you for that. It's I guess one of the things that I've learned in this business is my vulnerability and my story has such an impact, and I started specializing in treating eczema, even though it was something I was extremely resistant to because of my own journey and, what it brought up for me. And yet I get the most amazing results because I understand it more than most people, because I've lived with this condition chronically for 20 plus years of my life. And, after treating the depression, my eczema went as well, because that's how homeopathy works. Like, we don't just treat one individual thing, we treat everything with one medicine. And so, encompassing that, it changed my life. When you're no longer suffering from a condition where you're so judged and, like you said, it affects your sleep, it affects every single part of your life. You can't just go swimming. You can't write because you've got cracks in your hand and you can't bend your hands. Like, you can't put on clothes because you end up bleeding everywhere. Like, the extensiveness of how it can affect your life is so, it can be so debilitating for so many people. And, like, I had abuses that happened to me when I was in New Zealand. And I guess that compounded to, my depression when I got older. And again, knowing the depths of what I struggled with and how it's helped me, I was like, how can I not share this medicine? Because this is amazing, yeah.
How you said that sentence, you said, I don't know how people people that don't have it in your life, I don't know how you get by. That's something that I think is going to stick with me for some time. So that's very profound. I'd love you to break down, for a lot of us, we've heard of, being a homeopath and natural medicine, but what's the difference of the forms of medicine to natural therapies? Like,
yeah. So homeopathy is a natural medicine that's been around for over 200 years. It was created by a German physician. So he was a doctor and he was really dissatisfied with how medicine was at that time, because they were using crude substances, which would obviously most of the time cause more harm than good. And homeopathy is basically using the energetic imprint, right? So we are all energy. We are all energetic beings. Without the energy within us, we would be a corpse on the ground, right? And every single substance in the world has an energetic imprint to it. And basically, with homeopathy, we capture that energetic imprint, and that is what a homeopath, like a medicine, is made from. So you get the crude substance and you dilute it down to a point where it's just the energy of that medicine that is retained. And this is where, it's just placebo, it's just water, and all of those kind of comments come, is because it's diluted down to a point where it's only the energetic substance that is left. Now that's where it differs from every other medicine. So naturopathy focuses on using, tinctures. So that's like the crude substance in tincture form. And, like, they do things like iridology and use supplementation, vitamin C, those kind of things.
yeah.
Homeopathics, we can make medicine from anything. So we have medicines made from plants, from minerals, from animals, from disease tissue. We have it all. And basically, that the way homeopathics are proven and the way we know they work is we will give them to healthy people, and they will create a whole lot of symptoms that we then know it will cure in a sick person. So, yeah, so that's basically how you figure out how homeopathics work, is that you give it to a healthy person, you'll get all these symptoms, and we know, okay, we then give that to someone suffering those symptoms, it's going to cure that. And that is the premise, and it's extremely gentle, and it works by stimulating your own body to fix itself. Now, our bodies are amazing and have the capability to heal themselves if they are given the right tools to do that. And homeopathy is just a tool. It's a tool that stimulates your body to heal itself. So when we take a case, we will look at mental, emotional, physical, and we'll look at the whole picture. And we will prescribe generally one remedy that's going to match that whole picture. And in turn, will start balancing the body out to bring those things back into balance.
And yeah, no one can see me, but halfway through when you were talking about the energetics, and there's something that you said, and I just went, oh, like this. I don't know if you saw my face. I went, oh, and the
Yep.
reason why is you said bringing back into balance. The word homeostasis came into my mind, and I went, homeostasis? Like, is this where that comes from?
Absolutely. And it's about like, the whole bringing the body back into balance, because the body is meant to be in balance.
Yeah.
Yet we have all of these things that occur in life that put us out of balance. We have so many toxins, environmental, we have trauma, we have all of these things that put our natural state out of balance. Homeopathy helps to bring you back into balance.
Okay, so a common misconception would be, you mentioned placebo.
Yeah.
It was around 200 years ago, and now it's not. So the more modern medicine is better. Is there a reason why? Obviously, it makes a lot more money, I'm thinking.
So homeopathy is extremely cheap. And there was actually homeopathic hospitals everywhere. So if you look in the history of Australia, there was one in Sydney, there was one in Melbourne, there was homeopathic hospitals all across the world, right? And they're still in places like India. There's huge hospitals over there that are and they're all physicians that treat with homeopathic medicine. But what happened was obviously modern medicine started to come up, 120 years ago, started to become more popular. And basically Rockefeller realized that they were in complete competition with each other. And that homeopathy is so cheap in comparison to pharmaceuticals, but it also is not going to give them the money that they make off pharma. So, basically all the hospitals started to close down after that, because it was like, if you were studying medicine, you were actually banned from studying homeopathy, because a lot of the doctors were studying both. So it was like people had to choose, and they basically pushed it out, which was what they wanted.
and I'm thinking too, because it works, and sometimes these other medicines that do have the placebo effect.
Yeah. And the thing is, you have to remember, like, we are stimulating the body to heal itself. We are not suppressing. So most modern medicine is all about suppression of your symptoms, right? It pushes everything down and in, which then comes up in another form, right? Homeopathy actually wants to draw it out of the body.
Mm-hmm.
So it wants it to come to surface and get out of your body so that it's no longer there. And the thing is, when you're getting these deep-seated results, of course, that's going to be in direct competition to a product that only works while you're taking it. And they want you to keep taking it because they make money from you taking it. Whereas if we actually heal people and they no longer need the medicine, there's no money in that.
Is there any other misconceptions or anything else that you've heard? Like when you have a consult with someone for the first time, is there anything that people say all the time that you're like, oh, I wish they knew this?
I think the placebo is probably the biggest thing. I think so many people, generally when people come to me, they've actually looked into homeopathy a lot, or they're just at their wit's end and they're willing to try anything.
Okay.
And I think, I would probably say those are the biggest misconceptions. There are others, like obviously we use a lot of different types of medicine, like what we make our things from. Like we've got remedies made from spiders and, like stuff that people would just be like, what? Like you have a remedy made from spider? And I'm like, yeah, and it's an amazing remedy for kids with like hyperactivity.
Okay.
So yeah.
When you say made from spider, do you put them in like a grinder and grind them up, or like or is it, for real? You don't like,
no, pretty much.
I was actually joking. I was thinking you might.
No, yeah, 100%. And like we have them made from like dog's milk and dolphin milk and, like crazy things. So you could think like, dolphin milk, so Lactal-4 is amazing for like kids who love to be in water all the time.
What is it? I'm just going to stop you there. What is dolphin's milk called?
Lactal-4.
Oh, okay. I thought you said something
Yeah, the
before.
milk of a
Like,
dolphin. So yeah. But basically, if you think of kids with autism who love to be in water and they're constantly splashing themselves, right? What does that remind you of? A dolphin. Like, it's one of these things. So again, tarantula is one of our amazing remedies for kids that have autism and hyperactivity. They love to dance. So there's that constant movement, right, of a spider, but they climb everything. So you will see these kids will come into your office and they're like climbing your chairs. And like the parents will say they just climb every furniture, every bit of furniture. So like there's these amazing characteristics that you see are actually so related to whatever substance you're using.
I'm gonna take that a moment. If anyone's, when people listening to this, just like me, I'm like, hang on, that's just a lot of information to take in. But how you look at the synchronicities of how the spider moves and how the dolphin is and what it's treated, that blows my mind. I had no idea.
But again, it's these synchronicities that are in life, and
Okay. Okay, so I got one for you then. So
yep,
when we talk about self-healing and family wellness, because I know a lot
yeah,
of families listen to my podcast, we talk about anxiety. I think these are the three kind of pillars: anxiety, colds, and hormonal issues.
yep,
So when someone's feeling anxious, would you give them a certain thing? Because how you said with what you make up, it's one dose because you're treating the whole person.
yeah.
Someone's
So
yeah.
yeah, so basically you've got two ways of treatment. So chronic treatment, which is we are giving a small dose, so generally one dose a day over a long period of time to get those consistent changes. So those would be for things like anxiety, depression, the hormonal issues. When it comes to coughs and colds, you might need to dose every 5 to 10 minutes because it's all about matching the intensity of the dosing to the intensity of what you're suffering from.
Okay.
Okay. So, for instance, if I've got a kid that's coming to me and they've got croup, I would probably be giving them a dose every 30 minutes until that croupy cough lessens.
Okay, when you
Right.
say dose, I'm guessing it's in a what would you call it?
So it's either liquid or pilules. And so you
Okay.
either just drop the 5 little drops under your tongue or 2 pilules in your
Okay.
mouth. And that's considered one dose.
And what's the taste like?
So the pilules are made from sugar, so they're sucrose based, and so they're sweet. So kids love them, and you'll often find if you don't hide them, they will get into them. So that is a common thing that happens. And but if they ate all of that at once, that would be considered one dose because it's all about the repetition of the dosing. Um, and the other is mixed with a little bit of brandy to preserve it. So water and brandy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I know that just when I read up about you, obviously, before I asked you to come on my podcast, I noticed that one of your missions is to empower women to heal themselves and their families. So when I read that, I was like, you're my lady to be on my podcast. So why is it important for women to take charge of their health?
We are the cornerstone of the earth. We are the cornerstone of our families. Without us, there is no life.
Mm.
Women are the ones who bring life to the earth. So to me, if we don't look after us, if we don't get in alignment with what is true for us, then that ripples out in every single way for every single family member that is around you.
Mm.
And so for me, starting with supporting mums, when they are doing, the most amazing jobs, they are giving more than they've ever had to in their lives, and in history. It's so important for me to see women thrive and be happy and be in alignment for who they are and not to be bogged down with societal beliefs and, the conditioning of being like people pleasers and, being doormats and all of the stuff that homeopathy can help with, in so many ways. And, for them, I'm like, if they are true to themselves, then their children are going to be true to themselves. And that's how we change, I guess that's how we change the world, like by starting with mothers.
Mm. Just homeopathy. Oh, did I say it right?
Yes, you did.
I avoided saying it because I can't bloody say it. But people on here know me so well. Can that be preconception while you're pregnant, after the fourth trimester, or
Yep.
like after you've had the baby and so on, breastfeeding? Is this a form of natural medicine you can have?
You can have it through every stage of your life. It is completely safe to have during pregnancy, during birth, alongside any other medication. And that is the beauty of it as well, is that there is no other medicine that you can have alongside the medicine that you're already on, and it will not interact with it at all. And yeah, there are so many women I support through birth. Like I have a masterclass on that, how to use homeopathy to support yourself through birth, through aftercare, through the early days of babies, and like the issues that they can get, colic, and all of those things.
Wow. Well, has
Yeah.
it come so far that it's a pain-free labor? Like if we take this medicine, does it just take the pain away?
I wish that would do that, but it can do things like bring on regular contractions. It can help to lessen afterbirth pain. It, can help deal with the fear that comes up during birth. For so many women, there is a huge fear of, oh my God, I'm going to die, or I can't deal with this, I can't do this. And it can help through all of that.
Milk production?
Absolutely. For
Mm.
excessive milk production and not enough milk production.
Yeah.
Can help with mastitis. Loads and loads of cases of women with mastitis. And, of course, women don't want to just jump onto antibiotics because that's going to affect not only their own, but their baby's microbiome. And, that can then lead to cascading issues of so many I see with, the kids that come into me with eczema later on, have had these kind of treatments with antibiotics right in those first few days. So again, if you can have something natural that's on hand, you don't have to wait to go to the chemist. You can literally start dosing as soon as you know that it's coming on and stop it from progressing as much.
Okay, a fun question for you. So, how long have you been doing this for?
17 years I've been a homeopath.
Right. Okay, so this question I'm going to ask you, you're a good judge of character, good judge of this. In your 17 years, how have you found midwives? What's that? Not gynecologist. What's the word that when
Obstetrician?
yeah, the doctors that look after babies.
Yeah, obstetricians. Oh, pediatricians.
All of them, all of the
All
above,
of them.
all of
Yeah.
those. I'll just think of the midwives, but doulas and anyone in the maternity care, anyone in that type of field specifically. What are you having to do phone calls with them to try and say to them, hey, this can work in line with everything? Or are you finding more of these specialist type doctors and midwives are open to the care to this type of medicine?
That's a really awesome question. And I think it's very divided. You have some people who are extremely open to stuff, and then a lot that just are like, no, that doesn't work. That's just, why would you waste your time?
Yeah.
So I know some amazing midwives that use homeopathy regularly, and doulas as well, and would be completely supportive of using those to support the mothers that they work with. So yes, I think it is for midwives, and especially private midwives who have more of a say in the care of the women that they support. Absolutely. Those who are very linked in with the hospitals, I think it's a lot harder.
I've got another question for you that's just come up.
Yeah.
IVF.
Yes.
I see a lot of women that are either successful on it or not, and both of them, there's a lot of stuff that comes through that physically, emotionally, and the grief, and whether you're successful or not, there's so much stuff that isn't dealt with, isn't explained properly. They're pushed through so quickly, they're pumped full of so much God knows what, and then the effects happen for the rest of their life. They go through menopause quickly and all this kind of stuff. Could this type of medicine help? Have you helped women, first of all, with IVF?
Yeah, so there's many layers to that. we can support them through the grief. We can support them through, all of the stuff they go through if they've chosen to use IVF. We also have an amazing program by an amazing Australian homeopath called Liz Lalla, who has had insane success using homeopathy in fertility treatment. And so there are a lot of homeopaths that are across Australia that use her protocol because it is just so exceptional. And yeah, I have been lucky to be able to use this protocol, and it's amazing in the way that it works. So again, there are always options, but like anything, it does have its limitations of the women that can go on the program. And for some that have specific issues, they might not be suitable for it. But then if they choose to go through IVF, we can then support them through all of the other things. So there's remedies we can give if there's an increased chance of miscarrying. There's remedies we can give to support the emotional state, the grief, like about bringing the body back into balance after doing IVF. Like one of the biggest things we do is cycle, like treating cycle issues. So whether that's pain, heavy periods, like the mental and emotional challenges that come with, your cycle changes, all of that can be supported with homeopathy. So, and again, I think the most amazing part is that we don't just look at, your physical or your emotional. We look at it all, your physical, your emotional, and your physical. And yeah, and your mental, emotional, and your physical. And we're looking at one medicine that's going to support all of that. So I could have a client come into me who had menstrual issues, and she is really snappy at her husband and snappy at her kids, and she's overwhelmed by the pressure of life, and I can give her one remedy that's going to help with all of that. And to me, that's amazing.
Okay, so anyone that if someone's listening to this thinking, is this for me? What are people? I know this is like asking you how long a piece of string is, but off the top of your head, in the 17 years, do you just want to let us know someone's come to me for dot 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 dot? Like, just list some of the things so people can go, oh, I've got that, or maybe I can go here.
Okay, so some of the top things are lots and lots of overwhelmed mums. One of the biggest things is not feeling good enough. We have a remedy that is amazing for when women don't feel good enough. So you might not feel good enough to your partner, to your mother, to whatever, and then you've got anxiety. We have remedies for people that aren't good with their boundaries. So they're people pleasers and they allow people to come in and just, do things even though they wish they could say no. Anxiety, I treat lots and lots of anxiety. What else? Again, eczema. I treat so many cases of eczema because I do specialize in that. Autism support. So for, say, like behaviors, like I work with kids that they've started talking more. They've, started to follow specific sequences of instructions. Whereas before they might have only been able to follow one worded, go get shoes or something like this. There might be go get your shoes, and they would go and get their shoes when they couldn't have done that before. So, I think those are my most rewarding cases where you see, these kids with autism, and I get, sent pictures saying, oh my God, he or she tried pasta tonight, or ate lamb tonight. And this is something that is so foreign for these kids. Or, they're now speaking 3 to 4 words in a sentence, not just one word, and you watch these kind of progressions happen. And, it's just amazing. Hormonal issues are another big one. Irritable people who have really struggled after things like abuse. So we have remedies that can really help process the emotions and stuff after abuse. We basically have honestly, we have 5,000 remedies. So there's so many different remedies to help with all these things.
I love it. I mean, obviously I'm only finding out about it now, which is a good thing. So I can't say I wish I knew about sooner because it wasn't my time to find out about it. But is it something that, in my experience with the nutrition side of things that I know of, is homeopathy kind of the same, that it takes 3 months to take full effect if you're consistent with it, or is it like straight away?
So generally you will start seeing things not straight away, but within the first couple of weeks, you will start to see movement.
Okay.
So when we get kids onto the right remedies, so for example, something like skin, we'll see movement within the first month because there's a lot more kind of moving parts when it comes to that. But with things like your cycle, obviously, because it's monthly, that's going to take a bit more to see. But you will start to feel the emotional shifts within the first week that you're like, oh, I'm not as snappy. I'm not as overwhelmed. Like I'm dealing with that better than I was. I'm not as rageful as I was before. So you will start to see, and this is what I say to people, it's about a gradual reduction in those behaviors. And when you have them, they don't last as long as they were. So they're not as intense as they once were. And then generally by the 1 month mark, people are like, okay, I can see a shift happening. And often partners are going, I can see a shift happening too. And you'll hear them, like 3 months down the track, they're like, you need to get more of that medicine because we've run out and you need to be on it. Thank you. And you'll hear, I hear the wives say this to me all the time. And it's quite funny because before that, they actually are very skeptical of homeopathy until they see the changes and how it's actually helping and supporting, their partners.
And is it something that we need to be on long term, or like you said, it's just a dose for that particular issue or symptom or feeling that we've got, and we can just revisit it anytime?
So generally, the longer you've had something, the longer you're going to need the remedy for.
Okay.
But again, it depends what we're talking about. If we're talking like mental and emotional things, so if you say you've just been a really, really overwhelmed mum, you might need to be on that for, say, 3 to 6 months, that remedy. Once a day, your 5 drops, that's it for 3 to 6 months, right? And then you can start tapering off there, or you'll find that you'll gradually just stop taking it as often because you don't feel like you need it because it's brought the body back into balance. But for something, for example, like skin, if we're looking at like a chronic case of eczema, it could be 6 months to get the skin to be 80% clear. It could be a year to get the skin clear, and then we start reducing the remedy and how often they're taking it. With things like autism, it can be a lot longer term, because there's a lot more layers to unpack. And once you're on a remedy, though, and it's working for you, then we don't have to follow up every 3 weeks. We can be catching up every couple of months to just make sure that everything is still progressing in the way that it needs to be. And you just keep taking your remedy.
Wow. One thing I don't think I've touched on, tell me if I have. Have I talked about sleep at all?
No.
I'm guessing that out of the 5,000 you said types of medicines that are available, I imagine falling asleep, staying asleep is something that you could help people with too.
100%. Sleep is a big issue for a lot of kids. Bowel stuff is, an issue. And you'll generally find that those are kind of the top physical things. Headaches and migraines. Oh my gosh. Within 2 months gone with so many of my clients that I've treated, amazing. But sleep is a huge one. And I think affects so many people, and you have to look at why it's happening. But yes, homeopathics can literally help shift them from being really, really poor sleepers to really good sleepers.
That's amazing. I love all of this. So if people come and have a session with you, it's online, I'm guessing?
Yeah, the majority of my clients are online now, which is amazing. So just via Zoom. It's helpful when, I'm a mum of 4, so I'm a single mama. So it means I can still have my children around, in part of the house closed off if necessary, and I can still be there for my clients. Basically I offer both acute and chronic cases. So acute is obviously supporting people through, those things like mastitis, croup, what else? like coughs, colds, whooping cough, those kind of things, right? So those real acute, they don't last a long time. So I can support them through that. And then when we look at chronic prescribing, that's when we're following up over a period of time.
Mm-hmm. And can
Yeah.
someone come to you just for general, like, I want to get my health sorted? Sometimes it's a number, I'm turning 21, 30, 40, 50, whatever, and I really want to feel good and be the best I can be. Can people see someone like you for that?
Absolutely. And I think this is the amazing thing with homeopathy is because you'll uncover why you haven't been feeling as good. So many people will come to see you and they're not kind of sure what's going on. And we uncover, like people could come in and go, oh, I need my period sorted. And then you uncover that that was actually linked to abuse that happened that in their teenage years that they suppressed. And so it's like we need to deal with that. Because once we deal with that, that will then have the flow on effect because you go to the root cause of what has started it.
Okay. So if someone
Yeah.
has a session with you, do they have to fill out a form, like a lengthy form, I imagine, with some questions before they see you, or?
Generally, no. I just kind of sit there and, of course, get people's basic details, but I just go off what they say in the session. Like they could say, okay, these are the 4 things I'm really struggling with at the moment. And then I will dive into each of those. At the beginning of my practice, absolutely. I used to have, more extensive forms and stuff. But I think the more experienced you become and you know what to look for, you don't rely on that as much as,
That's
yeah.
amazing. That's so amazing. So I noticed that you have classes and courses on your website and stuff as well. So I want to talk about those. Are they designed for anyone or people that are experienced in having homeopathy before?
These are for mums. So I basically, mums and families and anyone that's new to homeopathy that wants to learn how to use it and how to incorporate it in their home. I want people to feel confident and comfortable to use them and rely on them when their families are ill, right? So that they don't have to go down and go, okay, I've got to get Panadol or Nurofen or, like these over-the-counter substances. I'm like, I want them to be able to pull out their homeopathic kit, feel confident to know how to treat their families and, yeah, to sit there and feel empowered at the end of it as a mum to go, oh my God, like he was like absolutely sick as a dog yesterday and now he's like jumping off the walls again. And that was literally due to me being able to support them with homeopathy. So I have classes for, like the complete beginner where we go over, the basics of homeopathy. And then each class is, builds kind of on different aspects. So I have classes that are all on coughs because that's a really big thing. I have like a pregnancy, birth, and beyond class. I've got kids' illness classes. I've got a back to school class where we're looking at things like NITs and, impetigo and, hand, foot, and mouth and all of those things that are very relevant to what happened at school. And then, yeah, I have a membership as well, a monthly membership where you can learn these concepts of homeopathy and you can dive into it a bit further, but it's very much designed for those who just want to have the knowledge for themselves and to be able to support their families or their friends with it. So there are amazing courses out there to become homeopaths, but this is just for mums and families.
I love that. And didn't I see something that you've got for dogs as well?
Yes, I have a class for pets and small animals. So we go dogs, cats, chickens, horses, we talk about cows, sheep, and basics that can help them. And then again, I will go into these classes further so that, when people have or want more knowledge on this, I can provide it. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, is there anything in the 17 years, if you've got like a a fun story, an inspiring story of a client that you've worked with? Like, is there anyone that kind of sticks out that you're allowed to like share with us?
Yeah, there's a few. One of the first I ever remember, and I think this was just showed me the power and that this is not placebo, right? For those that, like, I always can share this one. So I had a mum come to me and her son had such severe anxiety at 16 that he slept in the same room as her. He could not leave the house. He could not go to school. If she walked out to the backyard to hang out the washing, he would have an anxiety attack. Like it was severe. And he did not know that she was giving him this medicine. She came to me and she used to have to tell him that she was at the dentist, right? Because he just could not know. He would, it would again set off all this stuff within him. And so she came to see me and we gave him a remedy. And I remember her coming back at the first follow-up and she's like, he went and spent the day with his dad. And it was something that he could not do before. And she was like, he's not like following me out the door when I'm going to hang out the washing. She's like, I've come here and he hasn't called me.
Wow.
Like to see me. So like these, and then, I think it was within 6 weeks, he stayed at his dad's for the weekend. And then within 3 months, he was actually out going around and like living life as a normal 16-year-old. And I'm like, this was a kid who had no idea that he was being given this medicine. And, it was just like his mum was like, holy hell, this has changed his life. And I think, as a young homeopath, it was one of the most amazing cases for me to see because, I knew its ability. But watching someone else and it literally changed their life was just phenomenal for me. So I reckon that's probably one of the others. There's some others that, as I said, with the autism kids that I work with, and you see how much they just, they were so locked within themselves prior and they come out, and yeah, like where they would be in the car screaming their head off. This is one of my clients. She just could not be in the car and she now loves going in the car. Like
you're changing people's lives, not only the child or the person that's taking it, but you're changing people's lives that are in constant contact with the people.
100%. Like the mother of that little girl just turned around to me and she goes, I owe you so much, because my life is better. Like I can actually start to enjoy her again instead of everything being such a misery and such a battle because of the constant behaviors you're dealing with and how exhausting that becomes. You actually get to see the beautiful child that you knew was there, but that was just locked inside, so yeah.
Yeah, I just keep coming back to your story though. I keep coming back to your eczema and how it affected you, and then the years that flowed on from that and how you felt mentally and how this really broke you free from all of that. That's very powerful.
100%.
You could get a better testimonial from yourself. From that, it's nice to hear your clients, but again, I just come back to you and your why of doing this. And I guess you were brought up with it, but was there any part of you when you first started to dose yourself or get dosed with the medicine that you were like, oh, is this really going to work?
I had only experienced it on an acute level. So my grandmother had never treated us constitutionally. So when I saw the power of it, I trusted that it worked. I didn't know how it was going to work. I was 19 when I went and saw her. And yeah, I didn't know how it was going to work. I didn't know enough about it then. But I had this trust, and watching how much it changed my life, I was like, how the hell aren't more people doing this? Like, why is this not known?
I think there's a good chunk of people that, like me, have heard about it, but that's kind of as far as it goes. It's kind
100%.
of like, naturopath stuff or essential oils or, I don't know, spices or, I don't know. I mean, homeopathy is different, but I think if you've never been in it, you don't really know what it is. And it's like if you've never been to a physiotherapist or a chiropractor or something, you go, oh, they're those people that crack you, or you don't really know what they do. You kind of know. I feel like homeopathy is kind of like that. People may have heard about it.
Yeah.
And that's as far as it goes.
And I think there was such a crusade to shut homeopathy down within Australia about 10 years ago as well, that, it nearly worked. And there's been such a resurgence um, here. And that is amazing because it's helped, you know, like it's helping people to change their lives. And that is what, is so powerful about this is because there are so many people that are struggling and they want help, but we have an absolutely broken mental health system in this country, and so many people struggling from mental health issues, and yet here is a medicine that can literally get to the core of this and change it for so many people, and yet it's poo-poo. And that infuriates me because I'm like, when you see how it can help people and how many people we could help, it's like, how can you just sit there and disregard it so much?
Because it's not happening to them.
Yeah.
Until it happens to them and then they, have to look for alternatives, that's when they go, oh, but until then, it's just
Yeah.
closed off.
Yes.
Wow, this is just so fascinating. I hope that people get as much out of this episode as I am, like really understanding the power of this and understanding what I love about it is it treats, as a therapist, I operate different to other therapists as I do work with a client mentally, emotionally, for like everything. I don't just hear their words. I look at the big picture as well. And this is such a beautiful thing that could work alongside it. So I'm going to talk to you off camera about some stuff because my mind is just going 100 miles an hour. But I want to have a bit of fun as we kind of wrap up this episode. And I want to ask you a few kind of questions. Are you open to that? If I can
Absolutely.
any questions at you? I want to ask you, first of all, what is your favorite remedy or dose to recommend?
Ah, I think it would have to be two. So sepia is what every mother should have going home in her hospital bag because it is the overwhelmed, overburdened, overstressed mother who yells at her children and yells at her kids. She just loses her shit. And it is amazing to help stop that. And if you think about how many mothers and stuff are overwhelmed, that, and then Nat Mur is all about I am not enough. Nothing I do is enough. I will never be enough. It is that whole, and they'll weep and they'll cry and they're sensitive to criticisms, and there can be sadness and depression, and it's just one of these remedies that when you look at our society can help so many people. Like we all know we've been there when we've felt like I'm not enough.
Yeah, it's a human. I think safe to say that everyone on some level feels like that because it's just our human condition is just that we need to just keep alive. Our brain is only wired to do one thing, and it's look for threat. And am I going to die today? We are not. Our brains and our body and our emotionally and spiritually and physical aspect isn't made for 2025. 100%. Our body is freaking the shit out. We don't know. I don't think our brains and our eyeballs can still understand that we can have light 24/7. It's just the simple things like that. Open the fridge and there's food.
Yeah.
It's like, huh? It's like, I don't have to work for it. Like I can just walk somewhere and eat food, or not eating food that's in seed. Like there's so many things. I could go on and on and on, but this gets, okay. So I'm going to go back to another question. What do you find is the most surprising thing that people don't know about homeopathy?
Oh.
And it can't be that it works.
Yeah, well, generally that's one of the biggest ones. I think about what level of things we can treat. Like, who would think that you could treat an overwhelmed mum?
Yeah.
Right? It's that you could actually give them something to help lessen that overwhelm. Like you go to a doctor and they're like, okay, try some meditation or this. Homeopathy, you literally don't have to do anything except for take the medicine, and it will bring your body back into balance and you feel that shift.
Okay. I've just thought of something. So can homeopathy work this way? Say if all my girlfriends have had babies, but say, I'm going to a baby shower or someone in my family's going to have a kid or whatever. Is it the type of medicine that they could contact you and buy something generic for someone else as a gift, or do you actually have to screen the person that's taking
Okay.
it?
So absolutely, there are certain things that we can give to support certain conditions, right? When we're looking at classical constitutional treatment, it's all about matching your picture to the remedies picture. So that needs to be done by a homeopath. So if this is ongoing, then yes, you need to come and see someone. If it was for something like, as I said, an overwhelmed mum, you could try sepia. But if it's not your remedy, it's not going to help.
Okay, so it probably is best that they get individualized care. Yeah. I
Yes.
was just thinking, if it's your girlfriend's birth and heaps of people listening to this going, I'm not good enough. Well, maybe if I try it first and it works, I can give it to my girlfriends as a gift,
But again, homeopathy gets to the bottom of it. So I will have a client that comes into me and there could be like 3 or 4 remedies that they have certain aspects of, but one is more prominent. And so it's about my job is to figure that out. So a lot of the time, unless you have this understanding, you might choose a remedy and it's not going to help. So like we do have remedies to help with kids' tantrums and things like that, but to get to the bottom of it and get long-term changes, you're better off to come in and get a consult.
Yeah, I get that. Are
Yeah,
you a morning person or a night person?
I'm a morning person.
Have
I'm in
always
bed
been?
by 9 o'clock.
Have you always been a morning person?
I've always been a morning person.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Next question. I'm wondering, okay, this is going to be interesting. Are you a tea person or a coffee person?
I am a coffee girl all the way. 1 coffee a day and I love it.
How do you have it?
I basically have it with vanilla oat milk. And I'm like, yeah, very strong and with vanilla oat milk and that's
Happy days.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And one last question is, what's one piece of advice for women that are looking to take charge of their health? Yeah, what's one piece of advice that you'd give someone that's like listening to this and they're like, okay, I want to start looking after myself?
Honor that and put yourself first. So I think as mums, as women, we are always looking out for everyone else. And I think it's so important to take the time to look after your own health. So whatever that means for you, because it's going to be different for every single woman, whether it's they need nutritional support, whether, they are struggling with self-esteem or low confidence or anything like that, take the time to get the help that you need so that you can thrive. Because that's what life is about, is us thriving, not just surviving in the world that we are living in. And for so many women, they put everyone in front of them and they end up just surviving.
Yeah. And what I love about this is we live in a culture now where we see someone online that's promoting something and we
Yeah,
go, oh, I've got that, so I need it. But 9 times out of 10, that person probably doesn't have that thing and is just being paid to sell it. And then unless you
100%.
start looking at the ingredients and know what it is, this is for you. Come and see Kylie and actually find a remedy for you that's for your body.
Yeah. And that's because it's so individualized. People will sit there and say, oh, like you said, can I take this for that? And yes, it could possibly work, but it's also about dosing and understanding that. Whereas at least when you come in, you're honoring yourself because you're going, I'm doing this for myself and I'm going to get the help I need no matter what I'm struggling with. If I'm struggling with a whole lot of these things, and I think this is the beautiful thing and why I chose homeopathy. Am I going to go and see a naturopath where I'm going to have to spend $300 a month on supplements on top of my consultation? Or am I going to be able to take one medicine which costs $20? That lasts me 6 weeks and that's it. And for me, the depth of what it can treat, like, naturopathy is amazing. And, my sister's a herbalist and I use so much of it in my life, but it's very supportive of the systems of our body. Whereas the mental and emotional stuff, nothing can target that the way homeopathy can.
Oh, okay. Yep, I'm really into that now. Right. So where can people find you to book in to, look at these courses that we've been speaking about today?
Yep. I am on Instagram. I am like wild.herb.lady. I have a website, so www.wildherblady.com. All of the information on my consults, my classes, my membership is all on there. And yeah, my Instagram, and I'm on Facebook as well, but I would say jump onto my Instagram. That's where you're going to find the bulk of the information. I do try and make sure that I give a lot of free content. So, lots of acute support, knowledge with remedies and stuff like that. So people can actually learn. And then if they decide, yes, this is for me, they can dive deeper.
I think it's for everybody. I think hopefully we've kind of debunked some myths today. I've learned how to say homeopathy. I've had to listen to you the whole time. Like I want to say it. Yeah, I won't tell you what I kind of how I used to say it because it just would sound absolutely terrible. But thank you so much. Thank you I'm so glad we've met, first of all. And so thank you for paving the way for women to be vulnerable and to say, hey, in my past, I haven't been okay. Here's the thing that I've gone through. Not only can you help people with this beautiful natural medicine, you can hold the space for people and understand when people come and see you, like they come and see me, that first appointment is the hardest because they're accepting that none of us are good at asking for help. I still struggle with that. So I will put my hand up and go, I do it for a job, and me in my personal life, I think I can do everything myself. And it's coming to a point where I'm like, Barbara, we all have to ask for help.
Absolutely.
And I love that you are that person, that you've been doing this for 17 years and that you have that space to, not everyone has this gift or ability to honestly not judge, judge, hold space, and be there genuinely to help someone, and that you walk the walk and walk the talk, whatever that saying is. And I love it because you've introduced this to me. So now I'm going to go away and do all sorts of things with this. It's amazing. But, really introducing people to, again, there are so many things out there. And I am at a place where I know that there's a thing for, like, we're talking natural stuff. There is a place for everything in our lives when the time is right for us. Like, everything works if we're consistent with it to a point.
Yes.
But this is beautiful because it encompasses everything within us, the internal, the externals, our beautiful brain. And thank you for saying yes to coming on my podcast, and I hopefully that we've introduced this to someone that's sparked an interest of, I actually might give that a go.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. I've just, this is exactly why I do what I do. Is because I want to help people, and I don't want women to feel judged in their struggles, and to know that there are people who care and that are a safe space to hold them through that healing journey. And that there are options, because for a lot of people, and you would know this as a therapist, it's so painful to face things without support,
Yes and no, because sometimes when that pain is so hard, we switch it off and we just get comfortable living with it. And that's the scary thing.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And that's what so many people do. They go, I can't go and see a therapist because I just don't even want to feel that. Whereas homeopathy can bring it up and help you work through it without you having to do that, and then get you to a point where you can then face it.
Imagine the two together.
I know.
Magic can we create? That's what I'm thinking. All right. Well, it's so lovely to meet you and to have this conversation. And I can't wait to, see where we can take this. So thank you so much.
No, thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. I hope this conversation has added value to your self-care journey and inspired positive changes in your life. If you enjoyed this episode, consider sharing it with a friend who might benefit from this episode. Don't forget to subscribe on Spotify or on your favourite podcast platform to stay up to date on future episodes. Your support means the world to me. I genuinely love hearing from you, so please take a moment to leave a review. Let me know which part of today's episode resonated with you the most. Your feedback guides the direction of this podcast, and I really appreciate each and every single one of you for being a part of this community. To fall in love with yourself is the first secret to happiness. To find out a bit more about the Studio Chat podcast, head over to my Instagram page, Studio Chat Podcast, or if you want to find out a bit more about my counselling private practice, head over to Instagram on self_care_studio. I'm really looking forward to seeing you on the next episode. Until next time, take care of yourselves and keep embracing the journey of self-discovery.